welcome to our special show on the newly released memoirs of Dr. Y.V. Reddy titled Advice and Dissent. I can as well call this book the authoritative economic history of India from 1990 to 2015. Along with Dr. Manmohan Singh and Dr. Rangarajan, Dr. Y.V. Reddy is one of those persons who has made economic policy continuously for a period of 25 years from 1990 to 2015 when he presented the recommendations of the 14th Finance Commission which he chaired. The book can also be considered a smart handbook for the central banker anywhere in the world. In fact, Dr. Stiglitz calls Dr. Reddy one of the best central bankers in the world, a shade better than the legendary Alan Greenspan, according to Dr. Stiglitz. Well, Advice and Dissent is with us, and we have all the lessons from this smart central banker. Dr. Reddy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, first up, so why this title, Advice and Dissent?
Actually, the selection of a title is not, I realize it's not that easy. The publisher keeps proposing number of options, etc. But let me say what my preferred option was. I didn't succeed.
Oh, what's to be the title?
I was more successful in policy making than getting the title of my choice for my own book, if I may put it that way.
Okay.
My choice was Destiny and Dharma.
Okay.
But on balance, we felt that I was prepared to give advice. But often, civil servants are content having given advice. But in my case, when I felt strongly that I openly dissented rather than leave it alone. So the combination of willing to differ. So something like an insider who was prepared to be an outsider in criticizing rather than be totally insider. So I think that's the theme.
Well, actually, that is my next question. I mean, you are the insider writing about stories journalists and citizens love to hear. You know, the place where you have dissented with the finance minister, or as banking secretary, you perhaps dissented with ministers or RBI governors. Yours is not a masala book. I mean, I was expecting more fights, more insider accounts. This is more a very sedate rendering of what happened and the pluses and minuses.
Yes, you're right in the sense the drama of how we didn't physically fight, but what are other aspects. I didn't do it partly because very often there are a lot of personal elements involved, personal temperaments involved. Sometimes you lose your emotion. And all these are not really important. What I thought the important thing is, it's not the masala, the important thing is the dilemmas that we face in public policy. Very often people only pick up where somebody quarrel or some corruption has taken place. But so many things happen and people debate. And I wanted to put in public domain an honest account of the complexities of the policy making and difficult choices that are made for two reasons. One, it's good that the public knows. Second, even the people in the policy making in future or central bankers will have some idea of how these things have happened in the past. So it's a purposeful book rather than entertainment, if you want.
I agree with you, sir. It's extremely purposeful. But nevertheless, if you can give us one instance which you didn't write in the book, but an event that you want to narrate. You said we didn't actually get down to fight. You never got down to fight? We thought that you all had serious differences with at least Mr. Chidambaram.
No, generally you would find a hint there that on some cases he did not raise the subject with me. So when we feel too strongly and we differed, we knew that there's not, so we didn't raise the subject and the way we handled it. That's one. Second, I think very often we are mature enough when you know that it is strong, you keep silent.
Okay.
So I don't think there will be unpleasant discussion. It was never there.
Let me go back from the present to the past and look at some of the problems that were discussed by you and are still unresolved. Basically, sir, public sector banks, I mean, they are in a mess today. Would you say that the last 25 years, that is one of the failures of public policy?
I think in the book I mentioned that was an important source of disappointment for me. Because if you just go back, early 1990s, there are some recommendations. I think there's one place where reform should have taken place, and it has not taken place. India is a bank-dominated system, public sector banks dominated, and even the assurances given before the parliament, various reforms have not taken place. So definitely that is virtually outdated.
Okay.
The institutional structure is outdated.
Public sector banks are outdated
in terms of institutional structures. See, you just still have these banks, which are commercial undertakings, running under the statute of a parliament, where with the rules and regulations brought about by the statute of a parliament. How flexible can you be? You can't be flexible in that situation. And therefore, it's now an entirely market-determined area. In that market-determined area requires a lot of flexibilities, and you don't have them.
Okay.
So the institutional structure, the procedures are outdated, and it was known. It was known what is to be done, but it hasn't been done.
Okay, no political will. In fact, at one point, you are referring to how the whole system was corrupt. You are narrating that you, along with Dr. Manmohan Singh, when you were banking secretary, along with your finance minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, you drew up a list of independent people who should be on the board of public sector banks. But every name both of you all suggested was rejected by the government as this man is opposed to the party. And ultimately, the party used to send the whole list to the appointments committee, and they appointed without even a reference to the finance minister.
It happened, but what I'm saying is it is not surprising that it happens. In Britain, when the issue of public enterprise came and privatization debate came, then people asked that if only there was no political interference, the public enterprises would work well. You know what the politician said? Then you are asking a politician not to be a politician.
Oh.
So therefore, we have to recognize the fact that once there is a public enterprise, but political element is not bad by itself. But if it is supposed to be totally commercial, compete with other commercial undertakings, what happens? You are doing not profit maximization others, which means you have to pay a price. In fact, there are two sets of problems which are coming out, which arise out of public sector banking system. One is its capacity to face competition, and therefore the progress of financial sector reform is constrained. If the dominant system is not adequately competitive on a global scale, the total reform itself is constrained. Okay. That's one. But the second, which is more important, the fiscal dimension. Ultimately, why is the government putting in money to the equity of the public sector bank? So it is not, and it's a double effort. One is the progress in the financial sector. But I think our debate so far, and I must say, has not analyzed the fiscal impact of the functioning of the public sector banks. Finance Commission raised it. Finance Commission recommended that there should be a commission to whole issue. I think the fiscal dimension, the taxpayer is paying for it.
Yes, we are now realizing it painfully, and that it might be as high as 1 lakh crore to capitalize these banks. So perhaps.
Then the question is why?
Okay, there are 2 points, issues that you raise with respect to public sector banks. You are saying that it is very difficult for a chairman to be honest. There are instances where you refer that in the Public Accounts Committee or in the various parliamentary committees, when the chairmen are called, policy issues are not discussed.
No, I don't think I said all that.
Okay. Well, but you do say that it is very difficult for a chairman to face a committee and still remain independent. You come very close to saying that.
No, not like that. What I'm saying is there are a variety of ways where the chairman is constrained by the fact of accountability. So the accountability can be in a variety of ways. It can be stretched in some ways. But the more general point, which perhaps is more important, is that to the extent the political leadership has close business links. So the political leadership, direct or more possibly indirect, close political business interests. And they also have business empires,
yes.
Many of them. And you see from the declaration. And they are in various committees. And they depend on the bank finance. The finance in India is essentially bank finance. And therefore, the public sector banks, and then the political leadership compared to 20, 30 years back, the political leadership and many business people have become political leaders, political leadership. So in a way, you have to see that the public sector banks in the recent past has got a new dimension. To the extent that the oil between politics and business has become bank, which is public sector bank.
Okay. What is the solution to this? You cannot privatize the public sector banks at a time when they are, 20% bad loans or 20% NPAs. What is the solution to the mess now?
Let's put it this way. Ultimately, whether to privatize or not, what is the consideration? If it is only fiscal consideration, then what you have to assess is at what price you can sell now. Okay, you can sell at a particular price today. Now, if there are likely to be improvements by privatization, you'll get more price because the market will
price it higher. Yes.
And therefore you'll get more, not the way it is quoted now. Okay. Second, if by continuing to be owner, are you confident that you will increase the efficiency?
Okay.
Or will you increase the efficiency more than what the market would expect? So in fact, if you ask me, if it is very sick, the potential for improvement may be very high, and therefore you may be able to get lot more price than by continuing to manage the enterprise under the current management, whose capacities are not proven, if I may put it that way.
So basically, privatization could be a very good answer to today's mess.
No, all I'm saying is it is possible to analyze and conclude that you may be better off privatizing now than later.
Okay. Well, that's a strong piece of advice for those who are discussing.
No, I'm talking of fiscal. If you are talking only fiscal.
Yes.
But you say social objectives will not be served, that's a different matter.
Okay. Yeah, we will come to the social objectives. But let me speak about another angle which at the present day is, going to bedevil public sector banks very soon. The farm loan waiver. You also faced farm loan waiver demand from the polity in 2008. You disapproved of it, but you had to give in. You could not prevail over even an economist prime minister.
No, the point is very simple. I think in terms of credit culture, it's not a good thing to do at all. And that is very clear. But I think we have to view it in a broader context. You are having there are two sets. One is a comparative picture and then this broader social order. If you take this comparative picture, if you are prepared to write off X thousand of scores for Air India, the millions of farmers are going to say, you don't want to write off 10,000 rupees for oil?
Exactly.
Second, you are going to recapitalize banks for so much for what? For giving to industries where you have restructured. So therefore you have got a less of a moral case, number one. And that is the political pressure. Second, if you just look at the situation, the 50% of population is dependent on 15% of GDP, and the growth difference also is very high. So there can be social tensions, and this was the point which was raised. But only difference I would say in my defense is when this issue came up, I insisted that the government should pay.
Okay.
Earlier, you remember the banks were advised to read, so and that is continuing. But there is another difference, I believe, between last loan waiver and now. See, the last loan waiver was across the board for the country as a whole.
Yes.
In a way, it was not confined to areas where there was social tension.
Okay.
Today, Government of India is not a party to it. Individual states. So in some senses, the social order or social tension is relevant to different parts of the country rather than the whole country. So I would say that perhaps this is slight.
Not as bad as 2008.
I mean, not as extensive and as nationwide. So if I would say, I would say in future.
But sir, there is a political competition. Once it is given in one state, the other states who are demanding are not necessarily demanding because of distress, but more because they want the goodies.
Okay, let me put it this way. Last time, it was all India. This time only specific states. I am hoping next time they will say not the state, but only that district where there is a distress.
Okay.
So that is the hope I have, that it will be more linked to the distress than across the board.
Okay, so I have to take a break. But Dr. Reddy was at the helm when the global financial crisis broke out. He has a lot of interesting stories on how other global central bankers also could see the crisis coming but couldn't do much about it. So all those details from Dr. Reddy in a minute.